All right, cool. So this is the end of week 9, and we're getting into the second lesson of character design. So last week we talked about how to use shapes, circles, triangles, squares to influence your characters, how your viewer will feel about the character. And this week we are talking about how to give your character personality, how to show some story, some backstory, some sort of hints at what the character is about through costume and color and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So we've got Grace here with us. Thank you, Grace, for showing up. All right. So I've got a whole bunch of characters to show you, and we'll go through them one by one. So if you're familiar with How to Train Your Dragon, have you seen that movie? Cool. So over here we've got some of the initial designs for the main character, Hiccup. Yeah. Alright. So these are some of the initial sketches and all that kind of stuff. So just from these drawings, right? Let's say you didn't you say again? Oh yeah, this is yeah, definitely. This is just the initial kind of designs, but I thought they were very very cool because like let's say you don't know anything about the movie at all, but like what can you tell me about this character? So just some of your thoughts. What kind of culture does he come from? What kind of world does he live in? His personality. What comes to you, Grace? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's fair. You can see it's a magic. It's a world of magic and stuff because there's dragons, right? So again, exactly. You can see like okay, definitely he's a Viking because we sort of have the sort of stereotypical Viking hat kind of thing, with the horns, all that kind of stuff. You can see from his costume that yeah, exactly, yeah. You can see from his costume that he lives in a cold place, right? He's got fur. You can see he's very young. How can you tell he's very young? You can see like the helmet doesn't even fit him. You can see that his helmet doesn't even fit him. So he's sort of, but you can see from he's sort of maybe like a pretty, enthusiastic or kind of friendly kind of character, you know, and he maybe has a bit of an obsession with dragons, or maybe he keeps dragons as a pet, but obviously the dragon's pretty happy to be there as well, so he's friendly with dragons, you know. So I think yeah, all that just from this one, or from these drawings, right? Yep. You can see, so it's sort of like his companion. He's got it in his backpack and brings it forward. Maybe that he's got a smoking stick, so maybe the dragon lights it for him, and they can do little tasks together, like they're buddies, kind of thing. Yeah. So all that just from these drawings. Also we've got some what you call it? We've got some Street Fighter character designs, and I think if you're familiar with Street Fighter, like those character designs are really really very very distinct. They all have very interesting sort of silhouettes and sizes, and you can really sort of like get a lot from them. So this is a character called Guile. You ever seen the movie? This animated movie? Yeah, yeah. So it's basically it's called Street Fighter, all different fighters from different nationalities around the world, right? So what can you tell me from? So what can you tell me about this guy? Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, he's definitely some sort of either army or navy or air force. Yeah, yeah. I think he's actually Air Force, but you get that right. You get that he's American. Obviously Commando, definitely, right? Um, like that, and then we got another cat. Yeah, yeah, definitely. We got another character called Sagat. Now, again, from this guy, he's he's a kickboxer kind of thing. So I should probably have his full body, but he's more of a kickboxer. But something about the character is he has okay. So first off, he's missing an eye, and he's got a gigantic scar up his torso, right? So again, stuff like that, you're like, oh, how did he lose the eye? How did he get that scar? Oh, and like even if you don't explicitly tell your audience, it can be something. This guy obviously like he's like a badass. He's been in a lot of fights. Yeah, was this what did he fight an animal? What another person do that to him? Like was it in a fight? Was it in the wild? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Did he like try and like take on a bear? Obviously he's got he bandages up his hands, so he punches a lot. Obviously he's like either a box. I know for a fact he's a kickboxer, but the trunks make you think of boxing kind of thing. I know like in the animated movie you actually find out that like he hates this one other character like Ryu, right, which is the main guy, and you find out that Ryu he actually got this gigantic scar in a fight with Ryu many years ago, and like they were in a fight and yeah, and Ryu did this giant uppercut and just like sliced his whole chest. Exactly, but like again, I know like that. I know that because I watched. Yeah, I watched that because I know the movie. But even if you don't know, you know something happened in his past, and it's a pretty tough character. All right, exactly. We can talk about. So let's see. So first I've got Jafar from Aladdin. So just looking at his trying to tell story and character through the costume and all that kind of stuff. So you can see, well, from his pose, obviously he looks maybe very high and mighty, very up himself. From the expression, um, is anything that sort of strikes that comes to your mind? Anything about the so yeah, exactly. Anything about his costume that sort of hints at his personality or story. Oh, in different cultures, I mean different things. Yeah, I mean, in our Western culture, red and black is always pretty that villainous. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The color of war, color of battle, kind of thing. Also, something if you remember, he has this sort of cobra staff, right? Right. No, no, no. What happens is first is he hypnotizes people through it. He hypnotizes the Sultan. So also so there's a few things going on here. So this is one of his tools that he needs to do his job. How he rose to power is through influencing and whispering, almost like being very snake-like, very serpent-like himself. Later in the movie he becomes a giant snake when he gets the power of the genie, or he wishes to become a snake or something like that. And he wishes to become the most powerful. Yeah, he wishes to become the most powerful sorcerer, and he changes himself into a big cobra. Yeah, 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 exactly. And so, but like he's again, so the snake imagery feeds into his character of being very sneaky and sly and venomous. Exactly. You know, exactly, exactly. So you can get these sort of even if you don't know the story yet, you get the subliminal imagery of a snake. Um, mm, exactly. So I mean, I guess a lot of these designs, they play to our first assumptions, and you say, well, if I give you a lineup, the guy wearing red and black is obviously the villain, duh, right? Kind of thing, right? So that's the sort of like the stereotypical kind of thing, because this if a character kind of looks strong, he probably is strong. If a character looks slow, probably is slow. But you can, knowing this, you can sort of subvert expectation. You can kind of play around with this. Like, maybe you have a twist where the character, in Harry Potter, the character you thought was really bad, Snape, you know, twist. He's actually the good guy, but he's always wearing black. He's always, the way he talks, the way, twist. Yeah, exactly. Twist, he's good. Or exactly, right? He looks really bestial, very, very, very aggressive, but he's actually the most intelligent of the group, and he loves to read, and he's a scientist, and all that kind of stuff. You can, or even if you say you have a story and you wanna hint that this one character is gonna be the villain, but it's secretly no, it's the guy who you thought was good, and you flip. That's the twist. Because you made this one guy dress in white and neutral colors, so like of course he couldn't be the bad guy, but yeah, exactly, a twist kind of thing. So, you can do that kind of stuff. Let's talk about Darth Vader and his sort of character and how his. So first off, what comes to you from looking at his character and his design? hmm Again, we got black and red. Yeah, 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 definitely. Again, definitely like he's basically the epitome. Like I think we discussed it last week. The helmet is the skull mixed with like the Nazi helmet. But also we look. But also, as we discover, how he breathes, right? That heavy breathing, right? If you watch the movie, you know that. Do you know his story? Do you know? So do you know his? Yeah, yeah. So so we know in the past he was like he had his limbs cut off and he was burnt off to hell. So we know that like okay, yeah, the mask is intimidating and whatever, but it's also his life support. He can't survive without this suit, all the dials and stuff, so he's more robot than man. So that's part of his story. Um, he's part cyber, he's part, yeah, exactly. His whole, he's basically dead inside. He'd been kept on life support and all that kind of stuff that is shown in the costume, you know. So like if a character has to have some sort of certain need or say again. Right, right. Yeah, he's very tall. Yeah. And also, yeah, exactly. So, but you can see all the parts of his costume that go towards his needs. So if you have a character that they need this character exists in the jungle, and this character exists in the mountain, and they climb or they swim, and they need to, so you can incorporate some of the tools of their trade. Or this character is in very high altitudes all the time. Well, maybe he should have some sort of breathing apparatus, on him, some sort of oxygen, something. If they go hiking a lot or they mountain climbing, maybe they've got like a belt full of stuff or a backpack full of whatever, the tools that they need. Exactly. I had one student and they were designing this sort of kind of badass uh, cat. Like so she's like a you ever seen like Neon Evangelion? So like a well, basically the character was like she can pilot a big mech, but also she's more her design is more cat inspired. So claws and also a head like earmuffs that also look like cat ears or so it's that kind of stuff. And but also she's wearing high heels, And I was like, oh, but you know, you told me like you wrote down your character description that she's supposed to be, you know, very, you know, mobile and she fights and kicks and punches and all this kind of stuff, and she's piloting big robots. Why does she have high heels? And then he was like, oh, he was like, yeah, I get it. He's like, that doesn't really make sense. Like, if your character is supposed to be, you know, sultry and she doesn't really run around a lot, and you know, that's her point. She's supposed to be, you know what I mean? Like, treat your character, you know, well, if you don't always have to treat your characters with logic, but I mean, if you're trying to make a character in a sort of more realistic or sort of logical world, think about it. Like, if that was me, would I be wearing high heels if I had to go pilot this giant mech? Do you know what I mean? If I was some like, um, there's a character for Marvel called Elektra. Um, Elektra, right? And she's this sort of like ninja assassin, right? And if you can see, will it load? Uh, she's like this sort of ninja assassin, but she wears like this really sort of revealing, like it's gonna always like it's really kind of revealing kind of gear, and also bright red, and it's like first off, if she's like an assassin, if she's an assassin and she's supposed to be secretive and like, why is she wearing bright red? Like why, you know what I mean? Like she doesn't. She's wearing like long flowy sashes all the way. And again, it's the logic is like dude, this is for made for 13-year-old boys. It's just supposed to look sexy, like kind of thing. But when when they translated the character to the Netflix Daredevil show, they're just like that won't work at all. So they just like gave her like more. Like let's have a look at Netflix. They just gave her like much more like practical kind of gear. Like she just wears pants and a shirt, and she has like a bit of that red underneath, you know, as a tie to the original character. But they're like, yeah, we're in a more realistic world. That's really stupid. Like we can't do that. Kind of, you know. So exactly, if your character is existing in this sort of realistic kind of world, and this is the problem that a lot of guys that it often faces people who are taking like a comic book character into the real world kind of film kind of thing. And I think Marvel Comics do it really, really well. Like if you actually look at like the Thor, like how they made, like this was classic Thor, right? Right. This is classic Thor, and like if you went straight, we did that straight, it would really look sort of ridiculous. Um, but you know, when so I think it was a really exactly. I think it was really cool how they translated this thing onto uh, into real life. They had the sort of like the Norse cross, the Norse you know that sort of cross design. How they sort of like they blended it into the whole jacket and all this kind of stuff, and you know that's a really hard thing to do. But I think they did, yeah, they did it really well. So I think Marvel's really good about how they do that, which leads me on to Spider-Man. Right. So this is Spider-Man in the Captain America Civil War, and so when we're looking at his costume. So again, we're gonna just analyze kind of what he needs and all this kind of stuff. So he in the old movie, Spider-Man's webs were organic, but now they move back to them being mechanical, right? So as you can see that he's yeah in the Tobey Maguire ones they were organic, but then they rebooted it with Andrew Garfield, and they're more now he makes them because in the original comics he makes them. So over here, so this is another Spider-Man he's supposed to be like a really smart inventor kind of kid. So again, you can see that like he's got his web shooters right over there, right? And also he's got web. He also has like web refills over here in his costume, like on his belt, which is like, oh yeah, cool. Obviously he's gonna run out because like Exactly, because that was the thing in the Sam Raimi movies, the Tobey Maguire ones. They're like, oh, just to avoid the whole this thing, we're just going to make it like organic, so he doesn't have to worry about refills, right? But exactly, but now they're like, no, no, let's go back to the roots. He has to have refills. I remember in the comics, sorry, in the comics and in the cartoon series, he would constantly like he'd run out of webs at the worst times, and he's like, oh, my webbing is not working, kind of thing. So that kind of thing. So so you think about that. Does your character need, you know, to refill his tools, like bullets or arrows or whatever, Exactly, right? Over here we can see like his eyes actually like they can kind of like um, get smaller. And have you seen the movie? This one? So I thought before it came out, I was sort of speculating like, okay, so his eyes they can kind of shrink. So I thought, okay, the character is supposed to be like a photojournalist. Peter Parker is supposed to be, he's supposed to be a photographer. I was like, oh, maybe like that's like camera lenses, and that's how he takes photographs or something like that. I was like, oh, maybe, oh, like, I didn't know, but like, oh, maybe that's what it is because that sort of like it goes to his sort of backstory. But I found it in the movie that like he has like so much sort of his senses are so enhanced. Like there's so he just picks up sound and vision and sound and all these from everywhere. How he has this sort of like his spider sense, right? And like he actually these sort of things they dampen the stimuli for him. So he's like sometimes it's like it's too much. It's like I'm being assaulted with information. So like he was wearing like these really kind of hard to see goggles. Before he gets his suit, he was wearing like these really hard to like really kind of muffled goggles because he's like, oh, they help block out all the stimuli. Exactly, right? I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. That's quite clever, right? So there's sort of like a self-adjusting kind of thing. Because you're like, oh, why isn't his spidey sense going off all the time? You know? No, so he can sort of regulate it. I was like, oh, that's very clever. That's very cool. So that's again how this guy's costume and suit helps him out. Another one would be, again, oh, this is what I would not do. This is the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles. So with this one, this is what I would just sort of say would be sort of over design. So, but again, like this is what the director requested, right? So like, how do you tell that Donatello is the science one? Well, he has glasses and he's wearing goggles on top of the glasses because he's such a science nerd. Like, how do you tell Michelangelo is the party dude? Because he wears beads and he's got some sunglasses and he's got some like like bracelets and like let's like really like layer it on that like Leonardo is like the leader because he's got all this samurai kind of gear. Raphael is totally the rough bruiser. Yeah. Like Raphael is such the like hard ass because he's wearing like a gangster bandana. Yeah, exactly. I heard someone say that like, okay, what would four turtles that like live in the dark sewers ever need with sunglasses? Like yeah, but it doesn't make sense. But it's like, oh, like you just have to be cool. Like look, like Donatello has like he's got like adapters. He's wearing like plugs and adapters and stuff and like because he's a science guy, right? Like it's a bit much. Exactly. Like he's got a backpack and whatever and like again, but this is stuff that was made for like a really big budget movie, so yeah, you think he'd be really bogged down, but yeah. So again, I guess they're trying to. I think for the second movie they toned it down, but again, this is sort of like overkill. How do we make sure this guy is the party guy, this guy is the whatever, and this guy is the whatever, like kind of thing. Yeah, do you get it? Do you get it, dummies? This is what he is. Yeah, yeah, that's kind of the thinking for that one. So, um, this is um this is work by a character designer called Marko Djurdjevic. Um, he runs a studio called Six More Vodka in Berlin, and like they're really big into character design. So I really recommend you guys check out his kind of stuff. So Six More Vodka, one word. Um, this guy is a really badass character designer. I mean, and as we'll analyze, okay, so from this guy, like, what can you just tell me just looking at him? So so we can talk about. Okay, yep. So we got that from the climate, from what he's wearing. We can say, yep, very snow, like Arctic or Antarctica or whatever this world is, very great cold kind of place. The shield that he uses, the shield is like made, as you can see, right? It's made from like corrugated iron or corrugated metal, right? So maybe this has been like ripped off the side of the ship or something, or like it's not. It's very homemade. Or maybe he fashioned it himself, or very sort of a scrap metal kind of place, right? You can definitely see there's something to do with the walrus. So either this is like maybe they hunt walruses, or like they had the walrus god, or is the walrus tribe, or I don't know. Is it like they adopted that identity? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Even himself, you can see he's sort of very sort of walrus-like in appearance. We've got walrus tusks. You got walrus sort of tusks around his neck. So okay, even his harpoon, I can see his harpoon is actually made out of metal. Like it's again, it's sort of like pieced together kind of thing. We can see, I can see he actually has a one like blind eye over here. Yeah, one eye is blind, so maybe he's maybe an older guy, battle scarred. He's seen a lot of fights. He carries some knives. Not a friendly world at all. Yeah, right. Very kind of pieced together. Whatever you can salvage, kind of deal. And I actually don't know the full story behind this character. I'm with you. I'm just trying to figure it out. But even without any sort of we both might be wrong, but I doubt it. But like even without any sort of character bio, we get so much conversation just from this image, right? Here's another one, so we can check this out. This is another kind of character. So what do you think about him? Definitely, right? You got bees. Yeah, right. So he's got like bees and wasps, or bees or wasps, right? Does he control bees, or do the bees control him? Because you can see he's got like this hive growing out of his mouth, right? Maybe he's a living beehive. Maybe we definitely have like a nest, a sort of incubation sort of thing. Even okay, so the hive is sort of into his mouth. Makes me think of like like a makes me think of like a respirator, or like when they plug you in the hospital, like the kind of thing, like life support. So like maybe, right? Can't see. Maybe maybe it's sort of like a symbiotic relationship. You know, both they're coexisting for a purpose. So like he moves them around. They can use his body as like a walking hive or kind of thing. You can see on his arms and side there's like these growths. Are these filled with more bees? Are they sores? Is it a virus? Is it an infection? You know. kind of thing. Even his legs are pretty far gone. Is it a reaction? Is it his body like trying to reject the bees, or is his body is this going to become more of the hive later? Or I have no idea. But again, we're getting a lot of information, or a lot of sort of like potential story, like, and maybe, okay, maybe you design a character and you put all these little things and like you show it to your art director or to somebody else, and they start to like extrapolate and come up with ideas that you didn't think about, like, oh, I know about this, but then you're like, oh yeah, I totally meant that, or something, you know what I mean? Like, but what I'm saying is that there's just a lot, there's so much to talk about, and if you put a lot of thought into your design. So, and the last one, again, another Marko Đurđević drawing, which I really, really love. And again, I have no backstory, but I just like to think about it. So, if you look at this character, I'll just like go slowly. So we got his face, and I go down his torso, right? So first off, you're saying, okay, he lives. So the kind of world he lives in, it's sort of like, so maybe does he live on the ocean? Does he live out on the ocean, or does he live on the coast, like a coastal village, or so we're getting like the sea. Could it? Oh yes, so you're getting like that Mad Max kind of thing, because his technology doesn't looks very cobbled together, right? Exactly. I mean, he's obviously fashioned this sort of like robotic hand, right? And it's kind of pieced together with different blades and knives and stuff like that. And even the shape of his hand, what does it remind you of? Yeah, like a crab, lobster, whatever, some sort of like crustacean, right? So, I mean, like, again, it's keeping in with the sort of like the sea aesthetic. Exactly. Yeah. Like, even, I'm looking at it, I'm like, is it a cap that he's put over his mutating scalp? Or is the, right. We can see that you can see that he's sort of got, he's like, his mouth has been like pulled back by hooks, and there's like screws bolted into his head. Again, he's got seashells around his neck. Check out what he's got around his belt. Can you see? Oh, sure. hmm Yeah, he's carrying a head, right? So, well, he's carrying this like head, right? Like an actual human head, which he's kind of sewed up and put needles into and all that kind of stuff. So, maybe he's sort of like, uh, yeah. Is it like okay? First off, I'm thinking like maybe he's like a headhunter, like some sort of island kind of headhunter tribe. Maybe it's some sort of like witch doctor voodoo kind of stuff. Maybe it's someone his enemy. Maybe he obviously is a bit of a tool maker, right? He's got like scissors and screwdrivers and forceps, you know, on him, right? So he makes stuff. Maybe I don't know. He needs the head for some sort of something. I don't know. Like you know, if we look at his if you look at one of his weapons, right? He's got this sort of baton. This sort of baton, and if you could maybe I'm not sure. I was sort of looking at it. You can see his fingers on the sort of trigger over here. So I'm thinking when he clicks the button, maybe all these are gonna shoot out, or they could be electrified. It could be, maybe it's just spiked, because he's got like a sort of button over there. What else do I see? Doesn't wear shoes. It's pretty gnarly nails. Yep. Right. Could be. Yep. Yeah. I mean, and again, thinking about design. So this is this hand, right? It could be in the shape of anything, really. He's making some sort of hand, right? It could be, just okay. I'll put it this way: wouldn't it be weird if this was like a wing instead of a crab claw, like a wing, or like it wouldn't really fit in? Because like there's like we have no sort of like feather or bird imagery in the design, and it would look really weird. I mean, we've got yeah, we've got this sort of crab sort of thing. It could also work if it was like a big sort of like octopus tentacle, like a mechanical octopus tentacle that would fit in, or what else could it be? Ooh, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Something sort of nautical, something sea orientated. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's just you could sort of if your character is all about the sea and the ocean and the coast, you try to keep that in mind when you're designing. Even like again, like I said, this arm could be any design you want, but like to make it fit, you would try and keep it sea related. And again, so everything we don't, and this guy again, he's probably not a nice guy, kind of thing. So but just from this image, we've got so much to talk about, right? Exactly, we got hints of the world that he lives in, the kind of the technology level of the time, like the sort of economy, like it's not very good, or the sort of like just the sort of world he lives in, like his manner, you know. Hmm. Exactly. So all that just from this, I think that's really. I think this image is like this is one of my favorites. It's like I think it's high level brain power going into this design. Yeah. So yeah, so six more. So his name is Marko Djordjevic, and it's six more vodka. Yeah, six more vodka. Um, very cool. But yeah, I think that's all I want to talk about this week, and maybe you can use some of that stuff when you're thinking about your character. Maybe writing down a list with words of like what your character needs to embody or what they're about or that kind of thing. It can be a bit of a difficult task to sort of draw and think at the same time, like to the so maybe so you can make rough backstory, the kind of world, the time period, his personality, whatever the tools he needs the tools he or she needs to accomplish their goals. Just make everything logical. Why is she wearing high heels when she's a fighter kind of deal, or why is she wearing a fur coat if the character lives in a desert climate kind of thing, like yeah, you know what I mean, like make things be logically consistent within that its own world. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or maybe you're like, okay, maybe it's like, she stays in the cave during the day, but at night it's very cold, so that's why she's wearing the coat, and and her tribe only moves at night. You know, see, there we go, we justified it. You know, kind of thing. So yeah. So, any questions, Grace? Let me have a look. 1 second. It's for week 8 discussion. All right. Who are your characters? Uh, what examples in other media? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we want to explore who your characters are and how they impact your design. We'll be looking at examples of other media and how they can help inspire and improve your character design. Basically, everything we've just been talking about this this lesson is basically like this is a character and this is how it helps him do his job and this is how it describes his character and all this kind of stuff. Basically, what we were just talking about. Cool. Alrighty. Cool. Alrighty. Cool. Look, thanks for coming, Grace. And yeah, uh, and just hit me up if you have any issues. Okay. Bye bye.